First of all, I don't care. I scored a lot of points. I could shoot. I was a weirdo. I practiced all the time. Root for your team and call me any name you got to call me. I just feel like if you let the coaches get out of hand, then their players are going to get out of hand. That's going to go to the other team, and now we got a problem. And I said, Fred, what do you ask me to do? Chief for Duke? And he threw the ping pong ball or whatever, that magic marker thing, went right over top of my head. Hansborough, I grabbed him, and I could tell if something wasn't right up there, with his nose, but he was fired up. And I got to watch to see if he gets fouled, and I'm going to look at that light up there. Mm-hmm. You're smoking crack. Most of these officials got master's degrees, probably smarter than 90% of you people. Fred's dead now, and so's Dean, so now I can tell you the story.
All right, let's go.
I don't know if Lefty even knew what this kid's names were. He called them numbers. 52, get over here. Do you really think I want to write a 10-page report, be on a 2-hour phone call, get 800 and some calls at my house, two of circling the house, and they know where I live?
You miss reffing?
No.
Not at all?
Not a bit.
You love what you're doing. You're treating patients. You're helping people. What's next for you?
Dead.
Welcome to another edition of No Holds Barred. I'm Rich Roth, and my guest today is Karl Hess. He's a noted psychologist in the area, but so many more people know him from his career as an outstanding college basketball official and as one of the top players in Liberty basketball history. Karl, first and foremost, thanks for joining me. I'm looking forward to talking.
Yeah, should be good.
It should be good. So you grew up in Pennsylvania, great athlete. You commit to Liberty University. We'll talk about your career there in just a second. A fantastic career. Why and how Liberty?
That's an interesting story.
Well, good. That's what we're here for.
My high school coach was pretty much a legend up there. I think we were maybe like 78, 79, and 8 or something like that in my 3 years on the varsity. Lost 2 state championship games, and in the last year, we got upset in like the quarterfinals. I was down to probably 2 or 3 schools. You're from the north, I think, aren't you? So you probably know of Rider College.
Yep.
That was one of them. University of New Hampshire was another one. I really wanted to go to Penn State because I had a uncle who was a professor there for years. But they didn't have the 3-point line when I played. Mm-hmm. So if you were not, they wanted like 6'3" to 6'6" guards, and they threw the ball inside all the time. Mm. Well, it's probably not going to fit for me. Looked at a couple teams in the Big Five. And then I had a couple Division II schools that were all pretty good. But they had an all-star game, and it was pretty much down to Rider. So the Rider coach comes to the game, and I'm playing baseball. They had a coach die of cancer that was in our league. So they had a big fundraiser for him, and they had a basketball game. So they played our league against another league. And of course, the Rider College coach is there. My coach was coaching their team, and I kind of went off for about 40.
Wow.
And we won the game. And then these 2 guys came over and talked to me after the game, and the coach said, these 2 guys want to talk to you. So I went over there, and I talked to them. Make a long story short, I started having some reservations about Rider because there was a couple kids that I knew that went there, and they had an upperclassman guy that I didn't think was that good. But, he had started there. My mother went to Bloomsburg. She was a swimmer before she got hurt, and they were not far from my house, and they were at that game. I talked to them. I talked to the Liberty coach, and I decided to take a visit. So I came down here. Well, it's cold in Pennsylvania. And, most of the places I was being recruited at was up north. Wagner was in New York City. It's cold. Anyhow, it was a nice weekend down here. It was like 75 degrees. And they started talking to me about what their vision was for the program. So I started looking at who they were recruiting and what the situation was. And I said, let me try this. My coach was irritated with me at first because he and the rider coach were really close friends. The rider coach wasn't happy. I had been the MVP at our camp for 2 years in a row, and he'd pretty much made a commitment to me, and I backed out of it, and I came here. I didn't go to a Christian high school, so this was a little bit different for me. I had to get a haircut. And I went to more church in 4 years than I did my whole life. But it started out, they were trying to build a program, played a lot of NAIA schools. They fired the coach after the first year. The second year, we had Skeeter Swift. That was a story in and of itself. I think Skeeter's dead now. It was wild. And if they'd had an NAIA, I'd be out of here because I was going to leave.
Why?
He was a little bit tilted. I mean, we wouldn't see him for a week. We had all kinds of internal conflict on that team. And I played for a guy that was organized, structured. We knew what we were supposed to do. This was crazy. We had an assistant coach who came from North Carolina A&T, brought some players with him. We'd have fights in practice. It just wasn't a good environment. And I'm like, I gotta do something. So I was getting ready to leave, and they had a meeting of all the players up in the AD's office. And they kind of knew I was going to leave. Everybody talked about what they were going to say in the meeting, and then we got in the meeting and nobody said anything except me. So I pretty much laid it all out there, and I was leaving. So I took off. I went to the dorm. We didn't have cell phones back then, so I called my parents, and they were going to come get me. And then there was a knock at the door, and it was Jerry Falwell. And he said, I know you're in there, and I wouldn't talk. So they finally got the key, and he got me out of there. Make a long story short, we went for about a 4-hour ride all over Liberty Mountain. He told me what he wanted to do. He told me the 3 or 4 kids that he wanted to make sure stayed there. And what did I think about the assistant coach being the head coach? Well, that's the guy that recruited me. And he was a pretty decent guy. He was AD at the time. So I went home. I talked it over with my parents. He called me every day, and I finally decided to stay. And then the last 2 years were, as far as basketball goes, they were pretty good. There was no fighting. We got along pretty well. Back then, I think they only had about 100 NCAA Division I teams. And I think they only took 16 to the tournament. So everybody else was either Division II, III, NAIA. We played mostly NAIA schools. They had the National Christian College Association, which was about 250 schools. We won the national championship when I was a senior.
You were named the MVP of that tournament.
Yeah, I was. I scored a lot of points. I could shoot. I was a weirdo. I practiced all the time. I always had the key to the gym. My mom was superintendent of my public school when I was growing up, so I always had the key to the gym. I mean, I'd go in there 6 o'clock in the morning. I always practiced. That must have been awesome, though. I mean, no matter what level you're at, when you win a national championship and or the MVP of the tournament, I mean, that's got to be a super cool experience. Oh yeah, it was a great experience. And we played Virginia Tech. If they had the 3-point line, I'd have had 35 points against them, but I ended up with like 30 or something like that. And we gave them a lot of fits. And that helped me on to the next part of my life because the coach, the AD at Liberty at the time was Terry Don Phillips, who ended up being the AD at Clemson for about 30 years. I helped him move in, so he kind of helped me out. And I blew out my knee right after the season ended. And back then, you had to cut it. So, I mean, I had some options to go various places and play, but now I got to either cut my knee or what am I going to do with my life? My mom, being highly educated, said, you need to get some more education. So Terry Don Phillips hooked it up, and I went to Virginia Tech. I worked in academic advising for, 6 years or so. Got all my graduate work paid for. I worked for a guy named Carmen DeGano, who's one of the most hilarious human beings I ever met in my life. He was from Pittsburgh, and he knew my coach. So as soon as we started the interview, he said, "You're Eddie Gajewski's guy?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Okay, so we got the job. Let me show you what you got to do." And this is the funny.
Boy, that's easy, huh?
This is the funniest part of the whole thing. So he shows me all the stuff, and it's pretty much computer work. I got to enter stuff in there, and after a while, I was the guy who hired all the tutors and ran all the tutoring program. But he says, so we get all this done, and he says, you got to major in something. So what do you want to major in? I don't really know. Wasn't really banking on that. Oh, you got to go to school too. So anyhow, we went home. His wife was a professor in the family therapy program. So she starts talking to me about it, and I'm like, man, that sounds all right. So the next morning, we go over and meet with the dean. And he says, at that time, Tech was they would have 3 semesters. So they had a fall semester, then they had a winter semester, and then they had a spring semester. So he says, well, I don't have any openings in the program right now. And then he says, have you taken the GRE? And I remember looking at him like, what's the GRE? So I had to take the GRE. He said, I'll give you 4 of our toughest courses. If you can get A's in them, I'll give you the one spot I got open in the winter. So I got in. And that's how I became a therapist.
You just kind of fell into it, huh?
Everything.
That sounds okay.
I fell all into it. I roomed with Ronnie Carr, who ended up being the head basketball coach at Longwood for probably about, I don't know how many years, 15 maybe. That was my roommate, and I worked for Carmen the whole way through. Then he left and a guy named Jack Cox took over, but at that point in time, I pretty much knew everything about how to run the office, and Jack was just coming in there. He was going to be a GA, but he was probably 10 years older than me. He'd coach football somewhere in maybe Slippery Rock or somewhere like that. So he came in there. They gave him the job. He didn't know what to do, so, I pretty much showed him around. And then I got it all paid for. And there was Kevin Keys, who used to be the SID at Liberty. Mm-hmm. He got me into officiating because I didn't have any money. So even though my knee was tore up, I started lifting weights real heavy. So I could survive with it. I couldn't play like if I was going to play like I did in college, but I could still go out and play. And I started refereeing, and I took every game I could get. So these guys came and they watched a scrimmage. The referees were supposed to come, I think, at 1:00. It was like right around Thanksgiving, and they showed up at 4. So Ronnie comes up, maybe it wasn't Ronnie, somebody else came up and got me and says, hey, Coach Moyer wants to know if you can down and rest this scrimmage. So make a long story short, we reffed the scrimmage. The referee showed up. They's like, what are you doing? I'm going to graduate school. Why don't you get into refereeing? I said, I'm only doing this to make money. I don't want to be a referee. And then they start telling me how much money I can make, and I didn't have any money, so I'm like, well, maybe I'd try this. So they had a tryout at Radford. I went to the camp. Fred Bearcat was running it. Everybody makes fun of this officiating because I had hair down on my shoulders. So I go to this refereeing camp. They all got short hair. I got hair down on my shoulders. I'm just here kind of because them guys told me to come. And he starts talking about how you need to, have proper decorum and you got to dress right and your hair's got to be cut. And so the guy sitting next to me, he had a butch cut. He went and got a haircut and I didn't do nothing. So later in the week, I finally get the guy who was my roommate, Mike Dellis. He lives out of Smith Mountain Lake. He was a college referee at like ODAC level, stuff like that. So he cut my hair with a pair of shears. They're like tape shears. So, and then Bearcat takes me aside, gives me this lecture about what an idiot I am. And he also recruited me in high school.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
And of course, I mean, very influential, one of the assistant commissioners of the ACC. So that kind of started what would amount to a long kind of tumultuous relationship.
Yeah, he was, he treated me like a player. He told me that's what he's going to do. So, at times I thought my name was MF, but I learned after a while it wasn't. And I think he was a guy that if he wasn't on you, probably meant he didn't care about you. And he gave me a lot of tough games early. And, I kind of rose up through at the time, the Big South. There was a Division II league. I think it's still down there called the Carolinas Conference. That Carolinas Conference was a lot like the Big South right now. It was almost all the same schools. So he gave me a ton of games in there, and then he started throwing me in. Dick Paparo came out of the Big East, and a lot of guys couldn't relate to him, but I was from up there, so I hit it off really well with him. So Bearcat says, "You think you're ready for this?" I'm like, "What?" He says, "I'm going to put you together with Dick." So it was me and Dick for like 9 years. And so Dick doesn't do JV games. So we were in all the hard games.
Okay, before we dive further into the refereeing career, I want to back up a little bit to Liberty because for 40 years, you were the all-time leading scorer. You had your number retired. You're in the Hall of Fame. An amazing career. Obviously, could have gone a different way, but Dr. Falwell, Reverend Falwell, convinced you to stay, change the program. You win a national championship. All the accolades anybody could ever imagine over at Liberty. It was just, a handful of years ago, your scoring record was broken by Darius McGee. Now, interestingly enough, he had the three-point shot, and he had that COVID year, too.
Well, things change. Good for him. I'm happy for him that he got it. I would have loved to have played with the three-point line. Because if there's one thing I could do, I think it was shoot. That's what I did I practiced all the time.
Well, and a shot clock too, right? So that means more possessions.
Yep.
That could have made a huge difference.
Yeah, and for the most part, the real good teams that you'd play in the NAI, they'd run up and down the court all the time.
So that didn't matter?
Not really. But, on the way to go to the national championship, we had to play this team. I can't even remember where they were from, but they tried to hold the ball. So we ended up beating them, but that game was one of the harder games. And, if we had a shot clock, we'd have beat them by 40. But they lucked into some plays and they held the ball, and it made life a little difficult. But, we'd go play them, what is now the MEAC teams. We'd play them. Everybody pretty much ran up and down the floor for the most part.
Looking back on your career at Liberty, before we get into the refereeing part, how do you look back on it? Are you still real involved or follow the team closely?
I follow them, but my wife and I have, we had my mom. My mom got dementia. My mom moved in with us. I have a pretty busy psychology practice. And if you've ever been around dementia, It's not a pretty picture, and we kept her for a long time. I never put it. My dad died when my son was playing in the World Series in baseball at LSU. My dad died, and he asked me before he died to not put her in a home and try to take care of the property and stuff. So I tried to do that. I was getting close to having to put her in a home, and then she died at like 94.
Wow.
And now we're dealing with my wife's mom, and it's not fun.
Yeah.
So, you wake up, you try to work out a little bit, you go to work, and you can't really leave them, So I don't get to go to many games. I watched their game the other night on TV. They played Jacksonville State. So it looks like they're having a pretty good season.
Yeah.
But I haven't been to a game because we're close with her. I don't know if we're going to have to put her in a home or not. But it's a lot of work.
Yeah, aging parents, and I've been there. My mom passed away of vascular dementia. So
Yeah,
wasn't, I wasn't there. I wasn't living it day to day. My dad was, kind of the caregiver and all that, but just kind of seeing what he went through, it's brutal.
Oh, it's just, and it's sad watching it. Like my mom was superintendent of my public school. She was real sharp. And then at the end, she's seeing things that aren't there. You have to take care of her. They mess themselves all the time, so you have to clean them all up. It's just, then you start falling. She fell and fractured her hip, so we had to get that taken care of. So it's just a lot of work. I sure hope I don't get it.
Yeah.
I would not want my kids to have to go through that.
So
I don't really get to see them that much is what it boils down to, because I'm just busy. I mean, I work, I see a lot of people at the office, and then, you got to go take care of those things. And now my son and his wife have moved back in with us. They're trying to save money to buy a home. So we got a grandkid running around all the time. So these are not
man, so you're dealing with every opposite end of the spectrum.
Right. So it's not like there's a whole lot of
free time
to do much else. I mean, the kid is enjoyable, but, he's into everything.
Right.
He's 2 now, so he's mastered no and mine. And, my wife and I watched him the other night while they went out, and he's just into everything. And he's got a personality on him that it won't quit. So it's like the ever-ready battery. He wakes up and he goes all day long. So
yeah, there's a saying, something about, there's no wonder why young people are the ones who have kids, right? Because trying to chase them around when you get up in your 50s and 60s is no good.
Yeah, and I don't help it because I mess with him all the time. So I've probably made a little bit of a fool out of him by just playing with him and getting him to do stuff. It's kind of fun.
So many folks that I know you from your career as an ACC official. I mean, ACC hoops for so many years, the cream of the crop, and, seeing you at those games. And, there are Twitter accounts, that are named after you. And as passionate as ACC fans are, certain officials really stand out. And you were one of them. I mean, very... is controversial the right word, or very polarizing maybe a better word? But any ACC basketball fan knows the name Karl Hess, for better or worse.
First of all, I don't care. So that probably adds to it. Mm-hmm. Like there used to be a lady that sits right across from the Carolina bench. I don't even know what her name is. But she would scream and holler every game. So when I refereed a Carolina game, I would go over there and I would tell her husband that I feel sorry for you. And everybody would laugh. And then I would say, make sure that you don't get cheated today. Root for your team and call me any name you got to call me. So toward the end, she brings me a Hershey's Kiss and says, "You're my Valentine." And I get my picture taken with him. And then I got in trouble because I took my picture with him. So, it is what it is. It's a hard job. I had a philosophy that, I don't know if it would work today. I didn't take a whole lot of crap from anybody. Mm-hmm. I know when I played, I tried to get up to the officials and suck up to them a little bit. So I shot a ton of free throws. I think
almost 90% too.
Yeah, like a pin hair from that. But I just feel like if you let the coaches get out of hand, then their players are going to get out of hand. That's going to go to the other team, and now we got a problem.
Were you like that from the beginning? Because obviously, and I knew you from later in your career as reffing, but you were one of the veteran officials. You were put on all the big games because you weren't going to take nonsense from anybody. And I think most people kind of expected that, whether again they liked you or didn't like you, or agreed with your calls or didn't. You were there in the big games to keep things under control. Was it always like that for you?
Yeah, it was just on a smaller level. Mm-hmm. When I first started refereeing, they had these NII games. So back then they didn't have all, like the ACC officiating coalition, mm-hmm. Which at the time that I started refereeing included the Big South, the Colonial, the ACC.
So you would do all different games for all different conferences.
Yeah, and Bearcat was a no nonsense kind of guy. And he and I kind of meshed. I mean, he'd yell at me. He was yelling at me one night at Duke. And I said, "Fred, what do you ask me to do? Chief for Duke?" And he threw the ping pong ball or whatever, that magic marker thing, went right over top of my head. So we went out there, called 2 fouls on Duke. I gave Krzyzewski a technical foul. He put his jacket on. I saw him walk out. He didn't talk to me for like a month. So I called the secretary. He said, "Is he mad?" He said, "I think he's over it now." So then he started calling me. He said, "Don't ever talk to me like that in front of them people. If you want to talk to me like that, do it in my office." I'm like, "Yeah, that probably wasn't a good choice." I realized that. But, that was more like I loved going to the Big East because that was how it was refereed.
Right. Back in the day, Georgetown, Syracuse, St. John's. That was physical basketball.
Oh yeah, it was all about advantage, disadvantage, and their version of advantage, disadvantage was kind of like if there's no blood, there's no foul. It was like I can remember my first game at UConn. UConn's going to play Carolina, so I'm going to have that game. So the Big East coach says, or supervisor says, "Well, go do UConn so you and Calhoun can get to know each other." I'm like, okay. So I go up there. The guy drives to the basket. I don't even who they're playing. It was a smaller school. Mm-hmm. And UConn sometimes didn't show up for them games. Like he was over there clapping for the other team during timeout. I said, well, this is a little different.
Calhoun was?
Yeah. He calls timeout, doesn't talk to his team. He goes over and claps for the other team. I said, well, I'm back in the North now because that made sense to me. So I call this foul. The guy gets bumped. He lays the ball and it goes in. And Calhoun said, that's an ACC call. And I said, well, what's an ACC call? He said, in the Big East, if they get bumped and the ball goes in, leave it go. Now I got my big man's got a daggum foul. And I said, well, I'll listen to that. I understand that. So I start walking away, and then he proceeds to drop a whole bunch of other stuff. And so he gets his technical foul. And then he ends up getting another one. But back then you had to have 3. And then, and then not, and they brought that kind of philosophy to the ACC because back in the day, they'd let you play pretty good. Mm-hmm. And then they went through a period of time where they started talking about rhythm, speed, balance, and quickness, and they wanted you to basically take your hands off people. I can't quite figure out where they're at now. I think they're trying to find some middle road, and I'm not around it, so I can't speak for them. I don't know what they're doing, but I watched that Michigan Duke game. That was pretty physical. And then you watch other games, and it looks like, maybe they're not allowing all that. So I don't know what people are teaching them and what they're being told. But
I had always heard that John Thompson at Georgetown, obviously legendary coach, man, it's a shame what's happened to that program. His guys, his guards, foul them all the time because they can't call them all. Like ticky-tack, hand-checking, just all over the place. Different coaches, different philosophies, but, there is that philosophy where if they're constantly fouling, you can't call them all because you're going to foul people out. Talk about the different philosophies on calling games, and some games you're going to let more go, other games you got to call it tighter. Was that a thing?
Well, back when I started, it was all about advantage, disadvantage. So, you could drive the basketball and maybe somebody puts a hand on you. If they don't gain an advantage, and then you have to make a determination what that advantage is. If there's no advantage and he continues on, you let it go. When they went to the period of time where they wanted to call rhythm, speed, balance, quickness, they wanted you to call all those. Well, but let me ask you a question. If you're down to the final 6 seconds in a game, it's a tie score. The guy drives the ball, and you take what previously would have been called a ticky-tack foul. Now you put the guy at the line to win the game. Then you're going to get written about like me, that you're an idiot, you took over the game, you did this, you did that, you did the other thing, when you're just trying to do what you're being told to do. Well, I think they've backed off a little of that because I don't think they want games being decided like that.
Yeah, that's another thing that you hear all the time from sports fans is you don't want the refs deciding the game.
That's right.
If there's a foul, there's a foul. You can't swallow your whistle, but on the flip side, do you treat end-of-game scenarios a little bit differently than...
Well, I feel this way. I think your best businessmen have a feel for what to do. Your best teachers have a feel for what to do. I think one of the things they've run into trouble with officiating is they can't make everybody have a good feel for the game. So they tried to come up with this idea that we'll just make these what they called absolutes. But I've been in a lot of them big games. When it's down to the last 5-10 seconds, he better knock his head off. Because otherwise it'll be you took over the game and they can't recover. I don't know how they're trying to figure that out now. I see a lot of what I think are probably going to be the Final Four officials. They're going coast to coast. They're refereeing every night. I don't know how they're doing it. They're in California one night. They're in Florida the next night. They're at the Big East the next night. I was living that life a little bit, and that's when I decided this is getting too much here. And I was coming back here and working.
Talking about some of the ticky-tack fouls, if I'm remembering correctly, there was one maybe a Final Four, something like that, Louisville, and there was a last-second late, it was called a late whistle that you blew. Do you remember it?
Yep.
Tell me about it.
Well, that's when we were in the rhythm, speed, balance, quickness age. So the guy under the basket called the foul. I just echoed it. Did the guy get pushed? Yeah. That was his first Final Four. So I was trying to reinforce what he did. But of course, everybody sees I made the call and they think I'm the one who made the call first. No, I was just going along with what he called. And that was his first ever trip there because, just like you have an offensive team and a defensive team, I think if you have a well-refereed game, you have a third group, and that's the referees.
Was it 6 Final Fours you went to and 1 national championship game?
Yeah.
Talk about what you have to do to get there. You guys get rated every game. The coaches turn in a scorecard on you. How does that all work? Because to go to 6 Final Fours and referee a national championship game, you're clearly one of the best of the best.
They tell you when you go to the NCAA tournament whether they pre-assign the first 2 games. So, and they tell you they have a meeting with the basketball committee. They'll have one representative of every spot. He reads you this canned letter and basically says that anybody that referees in those games they'll be evaluated. They have evaluators there, usually a supervisor of officials in leagues. And then the national coordinator does whatever he wants it with it. And the truth is there's about 15 guys and they're going to pick 9 of them. So they're going to tell you all that. But the first one I went to was in Atlanta. I had a snowball shot in hell going on. I was like 27 years old. They're not going to move me on. I know that. And it was wild back then. You'd go, it's my first time ever to the Final Four. So I go in, I have the last game, and then they would give a paper. They would have a little paper and they'd push it underneath the door. And then all these guys started throwing bags. They were going nuts. I'm like, well, I take mine home. I'm not doing this. So
what was it?
It was the assignments for the next round. So they would have 3 referees on one game, 3 on the next game, and 1 standby that would sit at the table for both games. So there would be 7, and then the other guys could go home. Well, I knew I was going home. They're not going to put me in any big game.
Mm-hmm.
But I've seen that side of it. It's like every other job. There's guys that do a lot of politicking. You can imagine what they do. If you make it in that top 15 to 20 guys, you probably got a shot. Does that mean you're going to go? Not necessarily, but you have a shot.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get into personality configurations and how people like each other, don't like each other. This supervisor likes that guy. This guy likes that guy. It's an interesting thing.
You were telling me earlier that you felt like doing Final Four games, the semifinals, was tougher than the championship game.
I just feel like, you get into the NCAA tournament and every game you're doing everything within your power to win. And when you make it to the Final Four, that's a pretty big deal. There's a lot of coaches that have made it to the Final Four. They don't win the national championship. I think those Final Four games are usually, they're all you want. There's something going on all the time. There's something happening all the time. It's a very hotly contested game. And I'm not saying that the final isn't, but everybody's gone then. It's just you and one other team. You don't have a game prep for any future games down the road. And my experience has been most of those Final Four games are played pretty well. It's like Duke, Carolina. I don't think I had a bunch of them games. I don't think I ever can remember one that wasn't well played, very competitive. And so it's like a little easier to referee.
As far as regular season games go, rivalry games, is that kind of the pinnacle as an official to be able to call a Carolina-Duke game, or are there any other games that rival it?
Well, I mean, Carolina-Duke gets a lot of publicity because, they got to deal with ESPN. Syracuse, Connecticut's no walk in the park back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Kentucky, Louisville is not an easy game. Cincinnati, Xavier, that's a war. I think probably Duke, Carolina, if you look at the whole thing. I mean, look at all them banners up there. They probably got more banners than most people do. The names are pretty incredible. But they usually really, really, really play well.
Is there one Carolina-Duke game that stands out to you as far as that you officiated that, for whatever reason, it's the most memorable?
Well, it's probably the most memorable because of what happened. Was that game with Hansborough when he got hit in the head.
Mm-hmm.
Because with, I think maybe like 50 seconds to go, they're tied. And I don't know what happened to Duke. They have a couple possessions. They don't score. Carolina scores. Then the big guy from Duke fouls out. And now you're put in a tough situation. And, the kid from Duke fouls Hansborough. The reason it was a tough situation is you only had two ways you could rule it at that point in time. You either had to call it a fight and the player had to be ejected, or you had to just call it a common foul.
No in between.
There was no middle road at that point. Now there's a F1 and a F2, so there's a lot of middle roads. Mm-hmm. Back then you didn't have middle roads. You either had to call it one way or the other way. And of course, if you throw, Hansborough, I grabbed him and I could tell if something wasn't right up there, with his nose, but he was fired up. I was trying to keep him from hitting anybody. And at that point, they got to game one pretty much, and I asked them to take him off the court, and they did. And then I had to go tell the coaches. I looked at the tape, and he gets corked across the nose. Mike wanted us to consider intent. Well, there's nothing in the rule that said it's intent. Mm-hmm. Now you could go look at that. You might be able to rule a little differently, but at the point, you only had two choices, so it had to be a fight. And what does that mean? That means the kid can't play in the first game at the ACC tournament. Well, if you want to avoid that if you can. But there was no rule there that allowed that. So you couldn't make anything up. Last second shots are a pain in the neck in college because people don't know this. Unless they've changed it at Wake Forest, they have a light and then they have a horn. They're 0.4 of a second difference.
So which one?
Well, if you're refereeing, they tell you watch the light, because that's usually what goes first. Well, you tell me how a guy's shooting right here next to me, and I got to watch to see if he gets fouled, and I'm going to look at that light up there. Mm-hmm. You're smoking crack. Because the only way you're going to get that is go by the horn. Well, if you watch pro arenas, they're all synchronized. So when the horn goes, the light goes, it all goes at the same time. And they have lights on the table, lights up there at the basket. So you can do that there because you got lights available. Most of these college arenas, at least until I finished, you had two different things.
That weren't
Just think about Syracuse. It has to go all the way up to the top and comes back. It's over a second. Mm-hmm. And you got, 40,000 people there?
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah, sign up for that program. Because you have to pretty much go by the horn. It's your only real option. Now, if they had it all over every backboard, and I think whoever's not on the ball should be the one who makes the call. But what happens if the ball is your area and you're the referee who's supposed to make the call? Because you have to make the call. And I've been in games where somebody will come running across the court and say, I have no idea. Well, that's real good.
That's great.
That's real good. The ball went in the basket, and we now have to decide whether it's good or no good.
And you have no idea.
And back before they had several of those instances occur, you couldn't go check the monitor. At least by allowing you to check the monitor, now you can usually get it right. Mm-hmm. But those kind of things, I remember being at Villanova one night, Miami throws in a shot right at the buzzer. And the referee says, I got no clue. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. What do we do now? And we got together, decided what the heck we were going to do, and Miami won the game. That's one of the times when we found out there's two different lines, because it was 0.7 difference. And a lot of people don't know that. They just think, they're stupid. They don't know what no. It's like when people complain they're going to go to watch a replay. Well, we can see the replay right now. What you don't know, people, is the NCAA paid all this money to get this replay system. They have to get it from TV. They got to put it into their replay system, and the referee has to use the replay system. So it's not like I can go over there and look at the video that you're looking at home. So they think you're an idiot, when the reality is most of these officials got master's degrees, probably smarter than 90% of you people, and they have to follow the protocol. I used to love it when CBS had the finals. You'd go to the Final Four before they bought this system. And the guy he was incredible. I can't even remember his name now. But he would say, look at these 2 videos. And you'd be done in like no time.
Yeah. Wow.
Because he would have it for you. Then they bought this big system that's supposed to correct everything. And you have to wait till they do it. Now in football in the ACC, I mean, you sit there and you're watching the game. They got to get under the thing. They got to look at the thing. And now they have everybody in the office deciding what it is. So people get upset because they're like, why don't you make a ruling? Well, they're trying to make a ruling, but they got to do it the way the league says you're supposed to do the ruling. That stuff people don't know. They aren't aware of that stuff. And that back to that Duke Carolina game, that was a bad way for the game to end. Mm-hmm. It's just that game was played so well, went right down to the wire, and then he gets a broken nose. But the next year they put in rules that would change it, but it didn't help that day.
Yeah, I'm going to throw a few names at you, and I want you to give me the best story you got on each of these guys. Start with Coach K.
I would say, and I reffed a lot of his games. He's very, very intense, but he's fair. So what do you mean by that? Let's say you start off the game and he's in full court pressure, and you call a foul for having their hands on him. He at the next TV timeout, he's going to want to talk to you, and he's going to ask, is that how we're going to call it tonight? And if you say yes, he said, okay. Then they'll take their hands off. Where you run in trouble with him if he wants to talk to you about it and you won't explain it to him. Because he's got to tell his team, how are we going to have it? Now, the other thing with him is you got to gain his respect. He was calmer in his older days, but when he was younger, he was all you wanted. You got to let him know that, I'm going to call the game this way, and, I'll offer explanations to you, but, when you go over that, I'm not going to put up with it anymore.
Did you ever throw him out?
No, I don't think.
You remember the first time you teed him up?
I had a lot of teas against him. I'm not sure. I don't think I have Alzheimer's, but yeah, I probably don't remember that.
Is there one that's most memorable?
Well, the one that was most memorable was at the ACC tournament. And I've never talked to him about this, but this is what I think. I had Duke probably 18 times during the regular season. So I noticed that the last 2 weeks I would go, I went up to Virginia, and Pete Gillen said, what, Duke ain't playing tonight? So, I laughed, but I'm like, you know what? He's at the ACC tournament. He's got all the presidents, all the ADs, everybody here. I told my wife, I said, I'm going to end up teeing Mike today. She said, how do you know that? It's a perfect environment. I had all the games all the year. He's going to make it look like he and I have a problem. I don't get Duke all them times because I got a real problem with the Duke. They can get anybody to go to Duke. So I teed him up, and then he wouldn't shut up. So I ran in the huddle, and that was a epic shouting match.
How did it end up?
I told him a few things. He told me a few things, and we made an agreement that he would coach the team and I would referee. And that's how it played out.
Dean Smith.
He really knows the game. Probably a great coach of all time. But he could be a little sarcastic.
For example?
It's one of my first games in Carolina. And they're playing Virginia, and they have annihilated Virginia. They're up by like 50 points. And the last play of the game, all Carolina has to do is throw the ball in, and the clock's going to run out. So they throw the ball in, and the kid from Virginia runs over and grabs the guy from North Carolina. Well, that's an intentional foul. But I let the clock run out. because I didn't want Carolina to get 2 more points and
prolong the game.
And then
let's get out of here.
Virginia's going to be like, why are you calling that?
Yeah.
With a second left. So we're walking off the court, and Dean comes after me. And he's nice, but he says, Karl, you can't make up your own rules. And he said, on that last play, that's an intentional foul, and you have to call the game by the rule book. Well, he's right. You do. But I thought I was using a little common sense. He said he was going to copy it, and he would send it to me. He did. He copied it. The next day, I get an overnight letter from the Carolina basketball department. He's very complimentary of how the game was officiated, but then tells me, take a look at this play and let me know next Saturday what you think, because I know you got the Maryland game. Well, I'm not supposed to do that. Fred's dead now, and so's Dean, so now I can tell you the story.
All right, let's go.
I didn't tell Fred because he would have been fired up, and that would have meant there would have been a call to Dean. And somehow, ultimately, it would end up that I'm an idiot.
Right.
So I just kept it all to myself. So when we went over to meet the coaches, I asked them other 2 guys to go first, and then I went last. And so Dean said, did you read the book? I look at the tape? And I'm like, yeah, Coach, I looked at the tape. And I said, and I'll tell you what, I appreciate you taking the time to try to help me be a better official. So if you got anything you want to provide, in the future, feel free to send me that so I can improve. And then I called the first 5 fouls against North Carolina. So I get over there, and he's like, I get the point, Karl. We're good. I'm like, okay.
So there's a lot more than just calling what's happening.
Well, there was when I was refereeing. I don't know. I can't speak for it now.
Did you ever have one of the Dean Smith, Rick Barnes games?
No, but I got involved in it. Yeah, I did. The year after this happened, I had it in the tournament. It was when Clemson beat them by like 2 points on a tip-in. But the year that they had that guy, Iturbe, Iturbe played with Clemson. And we all knew that Iturbe was a European-style player. So you had to watch him all the time. So the guy's running along the baseline, and he trips. He just sticks his foot back, and the guy trips. Well, Dean gets ticked. So I'm watching the game. There's not much left to go. It's pretty close. So he walks out on the court and proceeds to enlighten Iturbe about how to play defense. Well, Barnes gets ticked off that he's talking to his player.
Right.
So here comes Barnes down there to straighten the story out. And they get in kind of a shouting match. They get them separated. The game ends. I was getting ready to referee the second game. Well, as they're coming off the court, Dean is walking in front. And he's making comments to Barnes like, I can't believe you're acting this way, Rick. and they had to go meet with the commissioner. But Phil Ford and Barnes were about to go at it. And I think I had Barnes and Dick Paparo had Phil Ford, and they didn't get to hit each other. But they walked away, and then I guess they went to the commissioner's house, and they got it all worked out. I don't know. I don't know what happened.
Did you ever have any games with Lefty?
Yeah.
At Maryland or JMU?
Both.
Both. He's a piece of work, huh?
Yeah. I don't know if Lefty even knew what these kids' names were. He called them numbers. 52, get over here. It was hilarious. This is when Penn State and James Madison had a game on Saturday. I was like 26, 27 years old, and I got assigned to the game. Well, I was kind of stupid back then and didn't know you got to watch the weather and everything. So they get a snowstorm up in State College, like 30 feet or 30 inches.
Mm-hmm.
And so I get called by the ACC office, and they said, "Are you at Penn State?" Because the game's at noon. And I'm like, "No, I'm getting ready to fly out at 6. Do you know that they have 30 inches of snow?" And I'm like, "Nope, didn't really know that." And they said, "You need to get on the first flight out of there." Well, I live in Lynchburg, so not like they have 14 flights.
Right.
So I just leave the office. I go over there. I get in the plane. And back then, you could go to either Pittsburgh or Charlotte. Mm-hmm. So I go to Pittsburgh. So now I get to Pittsburgh. There is nothing leaving Pittsburgh. So I'm standing there trying to figure out what in the world to do. I don't even have a travel agent back then. I'm trying to do it all myself. So I start talking to the Penn State volleyball team. And make a long story short, they tell me that they're getting a bus at 7 o'clock in the morning to go to Penn State because they're supposed to stop at like 10. So I go get the Penn State volleyball coach, and I ask him if I could ride on that because I got the 12 o'clock game. So Bearcats call me. It's like 11 o'clock, and I'm like, "Yeah, we good. I'm all right." So I rode in with the Penn State volleyball team, and they put me up in the Nittany Lion Inn, and I go referee the game. Well, in the warm-ups, I'm talking to the assistants from James Madison because now it's sun's out, and they're going to bus home. So I'm figuring, man, if I get to Harrisonburg, I can get somebody to come get me. So I start talking to him, and Lefty says, "Yeah, you can ride the bus home." So now they couldn't get the other two officials there. I made it. The other two don't get in there. So they get two guys that are on the, like, they're on the Big Ten roster, but they call it like a supplementary roster. So they're going to referee the game, and I'm the guy from the Colonial. Well, it comes down to the last play of the game. First of all, the guy pushes off. I'm a long way away, but I can see it.
Guy from who? Penn State?
Penn State.
Pushes off,
walks, and hits a jump shot. He scores the goal. Lefty loses. Lefty slammed his foot on the floor, which he did all the time. He goes off the court. He's livid. And I'm like, "Nah, I think I'll stay in this Nittany Lion. I don't think I'm going to, hey, coach, can I ride home with you?"
Didn't catch that bus?
Nah, I stayed in the Nittany Lion Inn. They bought me dinner. I ate dinner. And then it was clear the next day, and I flew home. But I'll never forget that.
Towards the end of your refereeing career, a couple incidents that everybody knows about. First one was 2012. Corciani and Gugliotta, two NC State legends. You throw them out of the arena. What do you remember?
Well, there's a little background to that.
Okay.
I did not make the call. Another referee did, and told the game manager to remove a player from the game because they were yelling at Florida State's players. Won't get into what they were saying, but probably wasn't good. The game manager went up and talked to him. Then there was another play where a guy dunked the ball just like Smart did at Oklahoma State, and they're yelling at the kid, and he tells me he's going to go into the stands. Well, that's not going to work. So I walk him over to the coach and Leonard Hamilton and say, "Let's just get through the game." So we're trying to get through the game. Then they have an area behind behind the scores table. There's a yellow line, and there's these pillars that hold a ribbon.
Keeping the fans separate from the scoring
and
table.
You can't come in there. Well, the two of them get upset about a play. I didn't make the call. I don't know if it's good or not. And they come up to the table. Everybody at the table is going crazy, like, what's going on? I asked for the game manager. Nobody can find her. So I went and got a cop, and I didn't recognize the two of them at first. I've talked this over with them, so both of them. If I knew who it was, I probably would have gone to them, maybe try to talk to them, get them back to their seat. But I didn't know who they were. I just thought they were regular fans.
But you know them pretty well from their playing days, right?
Yeah, but they're a little bigger now.
Right.
And they had their hat on backwards.
Yeah.
And, and I can tell they're They haven't been drinking Coca-Colas.
Okay.
So he just comes and walks them out. Well, then the AD turns that into a whole charade, and, that's what happened. That's my side of the story. I'm sure they have their side of the story.
But you said you've talked to him since about that incident.
Oh, yeah, I talked to Gugliotta about 2 hours driving to a baseball tournament. We laughed all the way there. I talked to Corciani, explained it to him. It kind of is what it is.
Feels like it shouldn't have been that big of a deal, but things kind of precipitated. And
there were things that I won't talk about that were before the game that I knew about. There were things I was told about. There was things that were going on with the game manager. There were a lot of variables involved in that.
But
and there were repercussions for me and my family. So am I happy about it? No, but life goes on. You just do what you got to do and move on.
You skipped the ACC tournament that year because you didn't want to deal with all the fallout.
Well, when you go to the ACC tournament, you are put in the same hotel as the media. So I'm going to go to Greensboro, take my wife and 2 kids after I got all the threats at my house, and I'm going to sit there. And my wife said, we ain't going. I was just going to basically just say, I don't want to be an interruption. I don't want to be part of this. I just won't come. But the Big East called me and said, come to the Big East tournament. So I went to the Big East tournament and let them do whatever they got to do at the ACC tournament, let it all calm down. Of course, the referees put my name on their shoes, and there were other things they did. And
in support of you.
Yeah. But, in retrospect, I don't know the best way to have handled that, but the way it proceeded was not the best. Let's just leave it at that.
And they did that stuff, putting your initials on their shoes and different things in support of you, but that may have just kind of kept things going.
Yeah,
right?
I think it exacerbated an already tenuous situation. And I had to live with it. I went to Pittsburgh the next night, and all the fans had rabbit ears.
And that, of course, a big sports thing. My dad was a pitcher, and if you heard the other team chirping at you, right? If you're not supposed to pay attention, right? And that's the thing, is they're saying you're listening to the crowd and different things like that.
Do you really think I want to write a 10-page report, be on a 2-hour phone call, get 800 and some calls at my house, two of circling the house, and they know where I live? I really want to do that in a 50-point blowout? No. But that's what happened. And I didn't feel like, my wife did not want to bring the kids to the tournament and see that, because, probably most of the people would have been professional. But what happens if one of them isn't? What happens if I have something that happens in a game? It's too much. So
yeah, because ACC basketball fans, as fanatic as it gets, probably right up there with SEC football. Over the top.
Yeah, they root for their teams. There's no doubt about it.
And then
I was walking with a referee into the tournament one year, the first year, and this drunk fan tried to punch him in the face. Now, he bit off more than he could chew, because the guy had him down on the ground, and he was going to knock him out. And I said, you might not want to knock him out, because if you hurt this guy, it'll be our fault. So he let him go.
And you're dealing with that with the ACC office, right? Because they're hearing from different people. And then it was, a couple of years later, the incident at Wake Forest, which really kind of sealed the deal for you.
I tried to beg the ACC not to do it at NC State, because I said, you'll ruin my refereeing career, because I know how it works. I do this for a living. But they made their own decision, and, that's fine. I'm glad what I'm doing now. I don't have to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, go to get a plane, worry about whatever was said last night, and have to deal with supervisors and, referee the game, get in bed late, get up early in the morning. It takes years off your life.
The incident in Wake, they wound up saying when they let you go that, it was a culmination of a lot of different things. They didn't point to one specific incident. Was that just the icing on the cake? Was that the excuse for them to finally part ways with somebody who didn't play ball, so to speak, with them? What do you think?
It's John Swafford's decision, and I have to live with it.
You miss reffing?
No.
Not at all?
Not a bit. Do not miss it.
Would you encourage young people who love the game?
No, I encourage both my kids to not referee.
Why? It was a great career for you.
Yeah, but it's got too much stuff with it. You got to deal with all these politically correct things. You got to deal with all these agencies. They're all different. You have to deal with travel. You can't tell me. I watched Roger Ayers the other night. He was in Florida, and the next night he's on the East Coast. Now, he doesn't have a job, but I had a job. It's too much.
Yeah, that's now a full-time gig, right? For you.
Yeah, but for the guys that are making the top money, it is. But I got a huge house. I got a gym at the house. Refereeing probably provided all that. Now that I'm staying home, I got more than enough at the job that I got now.
And you're a psychologist.
That'd be true.
You told us the story earlier. You just fell into it. And now here you are all these years later, still doing it. You love it?
Yeah, I do. I'm not really some big public person that, wants to be out there giving speeches and rallying everybody but to see somebody come in there and life isn't going exactly right, and then we find a way to make it go better, that's pretty fulfilling for me and them. And to me, that's more important than whatever happens in a game. So I like that part.
Did that help you at all with refereeing? Dealing with different personalities?
It did. Every now and then I get a call from some of them. This is a funny story. You know how games go? Like sometimes there's ebbs and flows. Mm-hmm. So maybe you're not doing too good at this point, but then maybe you get hot in the second half.
Right, yeah.
Or sometimes the fouls go against you.
Go on a run, yep.
And then you come in the second half and the other team's getting the fouls. Well, this is the regional final in New Orleans. And Billy Donovan is coaching Florida. And Rick Pitino is coaching Louisville. Well, Billy played for Pitino at Providence. And so when they get together, it's usually going to, it's a good game. So in the first half, the fouls they're not as bad as Billy said, but the fouls were more against Louisville than Florida. So now they come out in the second half. And like the first 4 or 5 fouls go against Florida. So we go to the first TV timeout. And I've just had Billy in the national championship game before. Billy comes down there where I'm standing and he says, "Can I talk to you?" And I'm like, "Yes. What do you want to talk about?" He says,
like you don't know.
Right. He says, I told my coaches at halftime, in the second half, you watch them, they're gonna make it all even all up. And he says, so now you're doing a great job. Look at that. 5 fouls against Florida, none against Louisville. He said, so what do you got to say about that? I said, well, if I were you, I'd be doing the same thing. Your $10 million or whatever you get doesn't come from Louisville. It comes from Florida. So you got to fight for Florida all the way. I'd be coming down here telling me all that stuff. So I don't have a problem with it. And he looks at me for kind of answers that. So he turns, he starts to walk away, and he turns around and he winks and he says, "You know what? You're a piece of work." I'm like, thank you. They throw the ball in, called another foul on Florida. He just starts laughing. He went and sat down. And it comes down to the last shot of the game. That's the year Louisville guy walked. The Florida guy grabs the ball. All he has to do is bounce it, but he doesn't bounce it. He walks. And thank God the tape showed it. And Louisville throws it in. The guy hits the game-winning shot. And that was the year they won the national championship. I guess they took it away from him. I don't know whatever happened with that. But But everybody knows they won the national championship that year.
You mentioned walks. What's a walk nowadays?
When you get that figured out, write your book on it.
Are makeup calls a thing?
For some people.
Like, I mean, you talked about a disparity in the first half and then it goes the other way. I mean,
I've always figured this. I think most coaches like to be in control of things. And I think the only thing they really understand is power. If you watch, at least when I was refereeing, all the guys that did what they needed to do and did it on a regular basis, they got all the big games. The ones that they could get to, they don't want them in the big games because they worry about if I can get this guy to give me something, what can the other guy do? I think that's kind of the way it is. Do some people do it? Probably. If I give you a technical foul, my philosophy was the next 2 calls are going against you, unless I absolutely have to call something for you. Because I don't want you to start manipulating things through your personality and like that, then I'm going to give in to you. Well, what's the other coach think? Do I got to get a technical now to make it even?
Right, because you get the technical and then you think you get the calls your way.
Yeah, now you're on. Now I got you on my team.
Yeah.
Because now you're going to come back. And so the psychologist in me says, if I tell you as a parent, you're not supposed to do this and I put you in timeout, you're going to stay in timeout. You're not going to get up and wander around and I'm going to keep putting you in timeout. We're going to move to option 2 because I think that works a lot better. Do some people do it? I'm sure. The guys I worked with that got to the top usually didn't do that. Now, there are some people that have better political connections than other people, and they seem to survive. So you can figure that one out on your own.
The politics of it all.
Yeah, there's politics in everything, and I don't think officiating is any different. It's a tough profession.
You're glad you're done.
Yep.
You wouldn't have done it. You wouldn't do it again if you had the opportunity.
No. Well, if I had money.
If you had money.
I did not know how I could make that kind of money. You know. I mean, I had a Chevette with 330,000 miles on it. I did not even have running board underneath it. They used to make fun of it and call it the Flintstone mobile. So I'm going to graduate school. I don't have money, but I can go out there and I can referee, you know, I can make $200-300 on a Saturday just refereeing games. That's big for me. I can go to do an ACC game and get $1,000. Wow. For me, that's...
Yeah. It makes a difference. Huge difference.
Yeah, it's a huge difference. But if I had, my mom was a superintendent before they get paid what they get paid now. My dad ran a lumber business, so we were a blue collar family. We didn't have excesses of money running around. So, I had to figure out how I could make it work. But you're right, I fell into a lot of things. I fell into being a therapist.
But you love it. And it's rewarding.
I do. I like that more than anything I've ever done. Trying to figure things out, make things go right. Is everything going to go right? Not all the time, but it's interesting. A lot of it does. So, and I don't have some media guy with a microphone deciding whether my choice to give a paradox or do something related to positive reinforcement. He doesn't judge which one of them I do, so I don't have to answer to him.
Those damn media guys.
They piss me off. And some of them are great. There are some of them that are really, really, really nice people. I would say that. And there's a few of them that are just, they like to stir up manure and, well, let's just say they do it. But maybe that's what they want. I don't know. I mean, if you stir that up, maybe that's what you want. I don't know. I don't know what they're told to do, and I don't know how to do their job. But in today's world, the repercussions of that can be a little difficult. And
So
that's the part I worry about,
you love what you're doing. You're treating patients. You're helping people. What's next for you?
dead.
And there it is.
I'm going to do it as long as I can. People say, when you're going to retire? I mean, I don't, as long as I keep getting people and it keeps going the way it's going, I'll work as long as I can. I get too many of my friends that have retired and they don't know what to do with themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They get 65, 63, something like that. They retire. They play golf.
Well, if you love what you do,
Yeah.
and it's rewarding and you're helping people, why wouldn't you keep doing it?
Yeah, and I'm doing a little bit of what's called coaching with teams.
Mm-hmm.
So, I get to be around athletes a little bit, where
Kind of
it's
like that sports psychologist thing.
yeah, very similar. It's very similar. You have somebody, having a hard time, not getting with the program. Sometimes they have a temper. Sometimes they're away from home the first time. And you get to talk to them and work on it. And, it's nice when you turn on your TV and, oh, look who's out there today.
Well, and having been what you've been through as an elite Division I athlete, and then as a referee, dealing with the personalities, dealing with it all, you've got a special, kind of background to be able to help people in that regard, it would seem.
Yeah, and I kind of like athletics for the good things that it has.
Mm-hmm.
It teaches you structure. It teaches you accountability. It teaches you teamwork.
Time management.
Yes. It teaches you a lot of things if it's handled right that are really important in life. I know he's my kid, but my son was headed, he would have been the closers for the Tigers. And he blew his arm out. And he couldn't get it all the way back. He came home. He brought his girlfriend with him. They stayed there for 3 months. Next thing I know, he's got himself some interviews, and now he's working for Stryker, and now he just got his own area, selling, medical equipment. And she's a lawyer.
Figured it out.
To me, he just put into practice all them lessons he's been taught.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that's I know that. He knows that. Maybe not everybody in the world knows that, but I kind of like it that way.
Mm.
He tells the story about when he was a little kid. To make a long story short, he was goofing off and he was trying to hit wiffle balls. So I told his brother, if he misses one, tackle him. That's probably not in the psychology book, by the way.
That may be what not to do.
Yes. But that's probably in the athletic book.
Yep.
And Nick Saban they have a problem, the two of them get in the middle and fight it out. Now, there's a lot of people that do what I do for a living that's trauma, that's abuse. Well, I think it depends on who, what, where, when, why, how. Because athletes are a little bit of a different breed.
Mm-hmm.
You can't play athletics and be successful if you don't have a little juice in you. That's one of the problems with offensive linemen. A lot of times they're big, strong, powerful, but they're just nice guys.
Mm.
You have to be an idiot. You're going out there, you're going to bang your helmet against somebody else's. How you don't get concussions, I got no idea.
Right.
And you have to beat that guy. You better have some intensity about it. And then, in today's world, even, when you get to Division I college football, pro football, them guys' jobs on the line.
Yep.
So, I guess they like you okay, but their job is on the line. So they got to try to get you to play with that level of intensity.
Mm.
And then you have to walk off that field or that court and be a human. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
It's a hard transition to make. You got to walk out here, be respectful to people. And sometimes that fire that you have is what makes you a success on the ball field. But
you got to turn it off.
You got to turn it off. And you got to know when to turn it off and when to turn it on. That's a tough thing in today's world. I mean, when I was playing athletics, when I was young, I mean, there'd be fights. Today, if that happened, that'd be all over cell phones.
Mm-hmm.
And the next thing you know, it would be the coach has lost his team or the coach is doing whatever.
Or we have to shut down the program because it's out of control or whatever.
Yeah, and I'm not saying Bobby Knight did everything right.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not. And I but I refereed his last game at Pepperdine, and I gave his kid a technical foul. I walked over there, and he asked me what he did. I told him what he did, and he said, I'll take care of it. Now, his way of taking care of it may not have been socially acceptable, but I have his first game at Texas Tech, and I'm with two young guys, and the guy drives down the court, and Knight knows the rules. Guy drives down the court, and all you got to do is have 2 feet on the floor. It don't matter when you get those 2 feet on the floor, and you got to face the defender, and then you can move. This guy rams the Texas Tech guy over, and we go to TV timeout. I think they're playing Villanova or somebody like that. And so I told the guy, we're underneath the basket. I said, we need to get busy cleaning up the water. He said, there is no water. I said, yeah, there is. There's water we need to clean because you need to turn your back to him right now because he's coming after you. Do you think that was a block on his player? He said, no, I anticipated it. I said, well, here's what we got to do. At the end of this timeout, I'll go with you and you tell him that you missed the call. And if you do that, you'll gain credibility with him and he won't go crazy. Contrarily, if you decide to buck up to him, then there's a pretty good chance he's going to get ejected from his first home game at Texas Tech. So he argues with me the whole time out. I said, I'm not going to tell you what to do. You decide what you want to do. So at the end of the timeout, the first horn goes. I said, what are you going to do? He said, well, let's go talk to him. So we go over. Knight looks at me. He says, what are we doing here? I said, he wants to talk to you. So he tells him that he missed the call. And Knight said, Karl told you that, right? He said, yeah, he did. He said, well, I'll take him anywhere. So if you turn out like him, you'll be good. Listen to what he tells you. And guess what? I don't call every play right here either. Now, they never talk about those stories.
Yeah.
Because that doesn't sell books. And that doesn't make a lot of money. Now, does he do that all the time? I don't know.
Right.
I've seen the pictures. I've seen the things. That's between him and whatever. But I can tell you, with me, as long as I told him the truth, I don't have any problem with him.
That great story. Good one to end on. We're out of time. But it's been such a pleasure.
All right.
Thank you. Maybe we'll do it again?
Yeah, sometime, anytime.
All right. Karl Hess on No Holds Barred.